Baby, you know what time it is. It's Studio Johnny Q time. That means it is time to drop your nerd drawers, baby. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm sure it's sexy.
Hey there, Shadow. Can you hear me?
Hola.
Hey. I just had a smoothie, was just welcoming everybody, letting them know what time it is. So.
Do you know what time it is?
Let's see. I did not get a notification for you two.
Yeah, let me check on that. Since I just went live, it may still be set to the last settings, which was invite only because of my transgressions on the last edition through distraction. So let me pull that up real quick. But before we do that, let's just welcome everybody. Welcome, Johnny Q of Studio Johnny Q. Hail and well met, fellow time travelers. This is today, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do edition through distraction. That's where Randy joins me for conversation. And Randy, let me take a look here. I'm gonna show you something, Randy. You remember when we were on that stream when we were watching the Fly of the Conchords, and we listened to the Bowie song? That there's a line where he says, "Yeah, I know. I'm picking it up on my LSD screen," and I think we have an LSD screen. Check this out. See what you think of that. And meanwhile, I will check on our YouTubes. Videos.
I see the regular screen. Which LSD screen are you talking about? Oh, there he goes. There we go. The delay. Forgot about the delay. Whoa.
All right.
That's so trippy.
And I did publish, so hopefully there will be a notification, Randy.
Yep.
You still with us?
Indeed.
says you're talking, but I can't hear you.
Hello? You got your ear holes open?
I wonder if this is because... Hold on 1 second, Rundles. I think the Vandals may have took the handles. Looks like my...
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Hello.
What was up?
The Bluetooth transmitter ran out of power. So I have it plugged in, but that means that you're a little fuzzy, but that's my end, not yours. So yeah, did you check out our LSD screen? As soon as I asked you about it, the thing went out. So anything that you've said, I know nothing.
Yeah. I said, dude.
Baby.
Oh man, the callers. All right, here's our inspiration photo for our build. I think we're progressing nicely towards this. Let me move back to our workstation and get it going. Get it on. How you doing today, brother?
Okay.
Last night was the first night of good sleep I've gotten all week. It was so nice. Although I had some disturbing dreams, but yeah, I think it was the best sleep I've had. But yeah, you're still having some struggles, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
How are you doing schedule wise? Are you all over the place, or are you trying to keep on a schedule? All right. Yeah.
Let me listen to the YouTube stream audio to see if I can't hear myself, I don't think.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I probably need to adjust the desktop audio. Forget about that.
Yeah, it sounds like I was super quiet.
Yeah, that's the same thing that happened last time. I forgot. Tater was like, "Randy's really quiet." Okay, sorry about that. It's because the audio when I play in the CD music or whatever, I have to change the desktop audio. I need to try to work to see if I can get that as a different volume setting. I'll have to work on that.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Wait for the delay.
Wait for it. Don't talk.
Take you out of my ear for a second so I can listen.
But just don't take me out of your heart. Alrighty. Give us some more light here. And let's get our M50 going. Set the timer for our M50. Give it a power. We'll see if it's going to play nice.
That's pretty good, I think.
All right, it's going to want a manual refresh. We can do that. Hopefully.
For some reason, Twitch is not giving me... Oh,
to-toe. Let's make sure that the cam link is saying it's getting, and it's saying it's not. Lies!
Oh. Your feed went down.
It went down, or it's just not showing anything?
It wasn't showing. It was showing like what I assume is
Camera with a slash through it?
a camera with a slash through it. Yeah.
It's like I read your mind, Randy.
Twitch. But you,
Let me see. Alright, for some reason the cam link is... You know what, Randy? Let me do a be right back.
okay. Oh, now it's back on both.
Yeah, what happened is the M50 is being fussy. So,
What?
I know.
The M50 fussy?
Hey, it's been really, 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 really good lately, so I don't want to talk smack. Actually, it's been the same the whole time. I'm the only thing that's changed. Ain't that the way of the world? Ain't that the way of the world? Okay. I'm getting better at troubleshooting it, though, because we have this cam link thing here. Let me see. I have everything kind of rerouted here. But, so over here is this little device here is a cam link. And what it does is we've got an HDMI cable that runs out the side of our M50, which I have here, and it takes an HDMI out, but what that HDMI shows you is basically your LCD screen, your viewfinder screen sort of thing. But when this is working correctly, there's a light right when it's getting signal, there's a light here that tells you that it's getting a signal. And so if it's getting a signal, then basically it needs to be refreshed in the OBS software. If it's not, then it's not getting the feed from, turn off the air compressor. It's not getting the feed from the camera. And then usually that seems to be power. Unplug the power and replug it in. Give it a second here. Hit that on. Make sure that okay, so we do have power now. So we should be able to refresh the M50. And there you'll see the camera with a slash, and there we go. Boom. Shazam, son. Alrighty. But now, unfortunately, I need to take a quick bio break. So I'm going to give us a... Now that we got that all worked out, let me do this real quick. I'll give us some Be Right Back music, and so you can just kind of do a little wherever you're at. Just kind of stand up and stretch yourself and do a little dance. Put a wiggle on it, right? Let's see here.
Down the mountain.
Say put a little bit of wiggle on it. So.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Alright, 1 second. Okay. There we go.
Welcome back.
Hey, welcome, Tater. Yeah, sorry about that. That was, you know, I don't have a gallbladder. I had it removed at a young age, and every once in a while, it causes a spot of bother, requiring sudden and immediate action on my part. All right, without getting too graphic. So, all right, let me.
You still take the was it CalMag?
It was Caltrate, or
Caltrate?
no, that's not right.
The
Caltrate?
calcium supplement. Basically.
Yeah, it was a calcium supplement. Yeah, you know what? I found that at that time I really wasn't taking any daily meds, and I find that daily meds just in general seem to help it, because I guess it has to do with bile salt, and I think there's something about when you take those medicines that they tend to absorb those bile salts, and if something's not absorbing those bile salts, then it irritates your innards, and you want to expunge the evil within. All right. So let us take a look. How you doing today, Tater? Good to see you, brother. I can do this without making everybody vomit, probably. So last night I got to spend some time. Shad hopped on. We worked on our Dalek. Put it in the paint booth. Got it primed. You can see pictures on Instagram. I posted some progress shots, but you can see here, Randy, I ended up putting this metal lip thing around the eyeball.
Nice. Turned out well.
Yeah, and it's broken, but I put it where it's already broken, so it kind of worked for it. I was trying to find a ring, and I just was having a hard time finding something that worked well. So, but for having nothing yesterday, to have this for the eye stock, I'm happy.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy with it, and I feel like it's fairly secure because we used our two. We drilled the hole through it. We used a nail. We used 2-part epoxy here, and then also super glue. So it should be pretty good. And that was kind of the same thing here. This was a bead that we drilled, and so that we could fit another bead inside of it, bead in the bead. And then when we it already had a hole that we incorporated, and we used that kind of as our pilot hole. And then we also used the back hole, no jokes, for putting the nail in. We nailed that back hole, and but where the top of the nail is here, so we kind of pulled it all the way flush, and then put some 2-part epoxy and some super glue, but so I feel pretty comfortable that this is going to wear better at least than the other one did.
Nice.
And you can see how we were able to preserve our eyeball and our clear pieces here with just using simple silly putty.
How
And
much is there clearance above? It looks like there probably is. Underneath of that piece, is there clearance between it and the actual Dalek?
yeah, let's see if I can.
So if you wanted to, you could put some LEDs in the lights on top, the little pieces on top. Are they clear? They look clear.
Yeah, they are clear. Yeah, you could. It would be hard for me, given my skill set, because I would have to totally remove these so that I would know where to drill the hole. So I'd have to cut these off, then drill a hole, because to drill the hole from this side would be impossible for me. I do not have the skill set to do that. Because it's not just like it's smooth and I can basically just line the spot up, because of these curved spots here would really make it difficult to get a true line.
You're in the right spot.
Yeah, so that. And we've used all kinds of different metals and rust and stuff to give ourselves some base coats, even, everything from rough iron, dark paint, to some bright brass, and even some chrome in some places. So today, what I would like to work on with this guy, let me see here. You don't give a crap about bottles. Exterminate, exterminate. Is good to hear that you're doing all right, other than busy day at work. Thank you for being essential. I don't know what that be like. I don't be knowing nothing about essentialism. You know why, Randy?
I think content creators were considered essential.
Well, that's because
Being at home.
that's because you're enlightened. However, most people do not find art to be essential. They do. They just don't admit it out loud. It was like there was a comedian, Bill Hicks, and he talked about people. He's like, if you have a negative attitude about people that take drugs, he's like, what I want you to do is go in and take all of the music that you listen to and just throw it out the gosh darn door. Throw it in the trash. He's like, because all those people real high on drugs. He's like, the Beatles, you don't write Yellow Submarine without being really high on drugs. But it kind of reminds me of, it's like art, we're so used to art being free, through TV and through, radio and things like that. Even online, we're able to get art for free, and it makes it, it's as essential, like it's almost like running water in your house, but at the same time, you put no value on it like you do water. So until you got to start buying it in bottles, and you're like, why would I buy it in bottles? I can get it from the tap for free. But that's enough about that. Support your local artists. That's what we say. All right. So Randy, I thought today what we could talk about, you kind of started it last night when you was dropping a science about the universe. And I'd be interested in talking some more if you'd be willing to talk some more about the universe and astronomy and such and such.
Sure.
So maybe start off by talking about what you were saying last night. I think you were talking about moons, that you were watching some YouTube program. I think it was called Seeker, and it was about the moons of Jupiter.
Yeah, that's a good problem. Is my recall? Oh, I got like a 2-second window, and then it's all gone.
What are we talking about?
These days. What?
I said, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm feeling you on that.
YouTube, YouTube has a channel. There's a YouTube channel called Speaker, and it seems to be pretty good. It's seems solid. They have a lot of science content and stuff.
What you mean by that is that there's no ancient alien conversation.
Yeah, there's another one.
Wait, hold on, before you continue, yeah, because I know you're saying that there's another one that you thought was less than.
History Channel.
Yeah, but I heard a comedian who went on a rant about the History Channel, and I just could not help but think about you. But anyways, go ahead.
So,
Yeah, well, you know,
History Channel,
the
all that stuff that started out Bravo, that started out as actually good channels. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how Bravo is probably even around now. I don't even know. But
Bravo.
they started out like high class, like really, scientifically driven, or in Bravo's case, it was, good quality films and stuff. And just went to shit. They just went the reality TV route.
yeah,
Now, History Channel, which used to be actually, science driven, actual hardcore history, is now just ancient alien stuff.
yeah, and the
I
look.
don't have any idea how the pyramids must have been built, so it must have been aliens.
I also, you know, there was a channel erroneously referred to as the Learning Channel, and unless you know, it just
It used
started.
to be surgery
Yeah,
when it came out.
yeah, and then even hell, when I was trading spaces, I was still learning how to decoupage, but
Yeah, true.
but then I just started learning about, like, I think it was like my teenage daughter had a baby in the bathroom stall or something like that.
Yeah, 16 and pregnant or whatever.
Yeah, sure thing. I turned them up
Yeah.
once, but I'll turn them up some more. Thanks, David, for the see here.
Yeah, those are annoying. It's the fact that they present it as a documentary on something that you trust to be a reliable source.
I'm still mad about Blair Witch because Sci-Fi presented.
Oh yeah,
that
that was up.
That was
They
nefarious.
It's listed as a documentary.
Yeah, and it was like there was nothing that said this is a commercial about something that didn't happen. And I was telling somebody about it, and I was like, "Hey man, there's like hokum." I'm like, "No man, I saw it on the TV, hokum." And I was just like, then it was the early days of the internet, and it was just like, "Oh man." That's what I learned. Do your own fact finding.
Yeah. Yeah, so Seeker, okay, so YouTube channels, there's another one called Riddle. That seems Riddle, like the Riddler.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Riddle.
Yep.
Which is okay,
awesome.
not
Thanks,
sure
Tater.
what I'm gonna get from this, So, but the content seems to be like really well done scientific content. Like the production value seems right, the narration and that stuff seems really cool, really high level, valid. But then, like, as you watch it, you get to like the middle or approaching the end of the video, and suddenly it's like, whoa, what the fuck did you just say? This went from like.
Did you just say the Earth is flat?
Like this is the great. There was one about graphene, and this is the one I was telling you about, graphene, that was saying all this awesome stuff about graphene and what it's going to do, and it seemed totally valid and was in line with other stuff that I had watched. And then all of a sudden, at the end, it was like, and this will solve all of our problems and end world hunger and like cure cancer, like all these totally off the wall claims about like this is the miracle sauce, this is the end all,
It'll add a couple inches to your junk.
Yeah, pretty much. And then like they went on for that for a while, and then it ended. Like the last thing they said was like, we're not. I was like, really? I don't have any confidence in anything you just said at all now. Which at least they ended it with that not, but they put you through all that.
Just the tip.
So it is one that I am extremely leery of, which is unfortunate because, like I said, the ones that I've seen, the production value is very high.
Yeah.
However, Seeker seems to be solid. Seems to be solid.
That's cool.
So there's a lot on there about astronomy and stuff, and a lot of the with improvements in satellite technology and imaging and all that kind of stuff, they're getting a lot of information back from a lot of the satellites that they've sent previously. The stuff's coming in now or being analyzed finally or whatever. And so we're making a lot of new discoveries about the planets within our solar system, as well as pretty much everything else. And I mentioned too that I've been watching some stuff on Smithsonian Channel and what's the other one? Discovery as well. So
Science Channel. The Science Channel still is pretty good. That's where I was able to when I had DirecTV. That's where I used to get my astronomy fix, was from the Science Channel.
Mm-hmm. There's just from the satellite imaging on Earth, improvements that have been made on that, and the releasing of satellite satellites. They've uncovered a ton of new archaeological sites. There were some major discoveries in like Incan or Mayan. I can't remember exactly. I want to say Incan. Then maybe it was Mayan. I don't remember. One of them. Maybe it was Aztec. General area. Where they discovered major cities, and they thought they found one thing where it was just like one building, and then they got more satellite imagery and realized that there was this entire whole complex, and there was like we'll call it a causeway that's leading to this other huge city or settlement. And there was like a king's tomb was discovered, and all this really cool stuff. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
There's been, I think they discovered a new tomb in Egypt as well that they opened up.
Yeah, I heard something. I just saw the headline about something about them opening up. I didn't get the whole thing because it was, clickbait, or it kind of seemed like clickbait because it was like tomb opened and blah blah blah, and you couldn't see what the blah 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 part was though. It was like,
yeah, everything is clickbait these days to some extent.
Yeah,
just to get you to click the headers, the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
What else? There was a lot of stuff with with the space discovery.
Oh, you were talking a lot about Io, or about the moons of Jupiter, and about like you were talking about how much water that they were finding on some of those.
Yeah, it was one that was saying that there was. It first started off saying that. Well, actually, the whole video was about JUICE, which is what is it? It's basically like NASA, but it's the European organization.
Say that again. Who is it?
European Space Organization or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
ESA. Yeah, Europe Space has a mission that they're calling JUICE, and for like Jupiter icy moons exploration or something like that.
I've seen those sweatpants that support that.
Want to say juicy?
Yeah, that's what that's about. That's what that's about, right?
Pretty sure that's
it's like, hey, you want to see the great eye? Do you want to see the Cyclops eye? Keep going, please. Sorry, apologies. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, that's a maelstrom.
They're like several Earths fit inside the eye of Jupiter, I believe.
Yeah, how big is the computer? How big is the eye of Jupiter?
According to an Amazon customer, a storm about 12,400 miles, 20,000 kilometers, long and 7,500 miles, 12,000 kilometers, wide, about 2 to 3 times larger than Earth.
About 2 to 3
times. Answer your question?
It so did. It's probably not true, but yeah. It's saying 2 to 3 times larger.
Feedback.
From NASA, Jupiter's Great Red Spot, an ancient storm. It is so large that 3 Earths could fit inside of it.
Wow.
Apparently that's been going on for hundreds of years.
Yeah, isn't it? That's nuts, right?
Yeah.
It's just a traveling storm.
Yeah, so a lot of the imagery and satellite stuff coming back. They've made a lot of. Oh yeah, so the juice.
Oops.
So it's looking for to examine the moon more. And what was the one that I think Ganymede is going to be the main one that they're looking at, but they're going to look at several others along the way, do some pass-bys and stuff, flybys or whatever. But they were saying that they believe that several of Jupiter's moons may have more water than Earth. And that they mentioned one in particular, which at the moment. But they were saying that they think that probably has more water than all of the Earth oceans combined, just that one moon. Or they're actually bringing the satellites, so I'm not sure how they're classifying the difference between a moon versus just satellite.
Okay. Yeah.
They refer to everything as a satellite, but it's basically a moon.
Gotcha.
Because I'm still the mindset is like, you say satellite, and I'm thinking, a man-made sort of thing.
Yeah.
Say moon, and you think, oh, yeah, a body orbiting a planet. And there was another mission that it was really cool. There was a documentary about it where I can't remember what that one was called, but scientists had to fight for
the right to party.
For this, yeah, basically, for this mission to happen, and it was trying to find out more about Pluto. So they sent out a satellite to. Basically, it would have to travel so fast. I think at the time it was the fastest satellite that we've ever done, because it had to travel so far, and it still took years to get there, I believe. And really, it couldn't stop in time, I don't think. So it just basically did a flyby. But that's kind of the best scenario that they had available. So. However, they got a ton of great imagery out of it and discovered a bunch of stuff about Pluto that went against what was previously thought. And they're also discovering this about different moons around Jupiter and various other moons in the solar system, I believe, that previously it was thought just to be a dead lump of rock, and now they're finding that there's actual tectonic activity. That's not quite what I mean. I think actually in Pluto, they expected to be just a totally cold dead rock, and they were actually there was actually some heat being generated by some sort of process that's happening within the planet, or microplanet, or whatever they're calling it these days.
Yeah, what do they call that? Because they say that because Pluto is actually one of several bodies within that orbit, right? I think, or it's part of. Yeah, it's like almost like the asteroid field. I think that there's a bunch of them. It just happens to be one of the larger ones.
Well, they downgraded it from a planet. I think they re-upgraded it to like a microplanet or something.
That's like being upgraded to a micropenis, really. Just don't even be a planet if you're going to be a microplanet. I'd rather be the largest moon than the smallest planet, I think. But computer, what is Pluto?
Dwarf planet.
Pluto is an icy dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt, a ring of bodies beyond the orbit of Neptune. It was the first Kuiper Belt object to be discovered and is the largest known dwarf planet. Pluto was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh in 1930 as the 9th planet from the Sun. After 1992, its status as a planet was questioned following the discovery of several objects of similar size in the Kuiper Belt.
Yeah, so the Kuiper Belt is what it's part of. And it's a dwarf planet.
I saw something else. There's some questions and I'm not entirely sure the validity of it, but there's some questions of possible planets that we haven't discovered yet, like something probably the size of about Pluto, I would guess, that's in between either us and Mars or Mars and Jupiter, somewhere in there.
Well, so what you have because between Mars and between Mars and Jupiter is the asteroid belt, right? That's between Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah, I believe so.
And so, yeah, that would make sense if it was. It would make sense if it was between there, because it'd be hard, to tell because of the asteroid belt, potentially.
But the mission to get some imagery of Pluto, they had to wait for so long, and then they had to turn it off, like put it in hibernation mode because it was such a long journey to save gas and like hard drive space basically for taking pictures and stuff. Fuel. And so they had to turn it on at a certain point. So there's always that nail biting, like,
yeah,
I've devoted my life to this. I've been waiting how many years?
I've been waiting 5 years so we can turn it on.
Yeah, and we don't even know for sure if it's going to come on now because it's going wrong.
That's
and
like it. It's like if you ever watched the documentary about the Hubble telescope.
Yeah.
It's like goes up there and it's like broken. It's like, I mean, that had to be a bad day for a bunch of people. I can't even imagine the disappointment. But go ahead. Sorry.
There was at one point they were able to kind of, I'll say slingshot, not, I guess it's a good enough term. Use one of the other planets' gravitational field, I believe, to kind of slingshot them, and it sped them up.
That's. Like 2 or 3 I think they say slingshot. I think that's accurate.
It took about 2 or 3 years off the journey, I think.
Oh, okay.
And there was one point where it was really close. It was really close to the goal, and they lost connection with it.
Jesus.
After all that time, and all that waiting, all that hoping, they thought it was going well, and then all of a sudden they just lost connection. They didn't know why, and then they finally got it back up. But they had to basically, like, reprogram the whole thing, like at breakneck speed, to try to hope that they would get that done in time to be able to have it actually do its job before it totally missed it.
Before it missed the window.
And they did it. They got it done, like right in time.
Awesome. That's cool.
Cliffhanger. Nail biter. So there was some celebration going on there. I think it still hasn't downloaded all of its data yet because how much data they have on the device and how long it takes to get it, how long it takes to download it from there to here. There's still new data coming in, and they're still analyzing all the data that they already have. But they're constantly seeing stuff like, holy crap, look at this. Look at this new discovery about Pluto that we just found.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I remember they had a probe. I think it was Jupiter. No, maybe it was a Saturn. I think they had a probe that they crashed into Saturn on purpose. They meant to do that, and it like had some really neat imagery about the rings. I thought that you could had some good footage of that, I thought. And then I think that it had some good footage of it actually impacting the surface.
That sounds right. There's been a couple that they've crashed on various planets, I think. I remember something about a satellite going through and taking images traveling through.
This would have been this might have been about a year ago, year and a half ago. I don't know, time confuses me. Oh yeah, you know what time it is.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I'll have Smoothie message you later, computer. Bring you up to speed. Alrighty. Well, this is helps if I actually have things in the camera. There we go. So put some wash on our guy. Now I've got a really wet metal paint that I'm just using to try to regain some of these areas that I've lost to dry brushing. And having it watery really makes it easy, because to get kind of into these right up to the edge, a lot easier to do that with a wet paint. Nice flat brush and just kind of jab it in there. Alrighty. I'm proud of us, Randy. We've made it this long and we haven't yet talked about Uranus. Oh man, I just ruined it, didn't I? I remember I took a couple of astronomy classes in college. I really enjoyed them. And I remember the teacher the very first day is like, this is astronomy. If you want to know about your sign, you are in the wrong class.
Please leave now.
Yes, please leave now.
If you want to talk about Uranus, you're in the right place.
That's right. That's right. I'm more than happy to talk about Uranus. But if you want to know what your lucky number is going to be, howdy doody in the house of... Go ahead.
Oh, as well about the universe, and they were trying to get like an accurate representation of the true scale of the planets and their distance from each other within our solar system. Because
I love that. Yeah.
Every picture we've ever seen of our solar system is so totally inaccurate of an actual portrayal of distance and size. Because it's just not easy to do.
That's why, like, the word that, like, awesome is criticized for not being used correctly, right? We use it for common day things when it's supposed to be you're awestruck, right? And it's the same thing with the term astronomical. The astronomical means that because space is just that. It's just made up of space. There is nothing but astronomical amount of space in between objects. So much that they, what is it, AU is one of the terms that they use, right? Astronomical units, I think, is one of the things. And it's like, yeah, it's just crazy, the size and the space between everything. And it's nothing like the styrofoam diorama that you did in second grade.
Yeah, astronomical unit, a unit of measurement equal to 149.6 million kilometers, which is the mean distance from the center of the Earth to the center of the sun.
That's what it is. It's the distance from the Earth to the sun.
The center of the Earth to the center of the sun.
And mean as in the average, because it's an elliptical path and it changes, so it's the average of that.
Well, not average.
Mean as an average.
Wait,
it's slightly. It's not angry. I think it means
there's one that you take the least amount and you take the greatest amount, and whatever's directly in the center of those two. That's.
I agree that there is a slight difference between, I think, mean and average. But,
yeah, and then an average is a collection of data over. So it's not necessary.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as saying that the planet's spheroid or it's an oblate spheroid. I mean, right. for the purposes of this conversation, we can use the term, I think, average.
Yeah. So the distance from the center, the mean distance from the center of the Earth to the center of the sun is just under 150 million kilometers.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, how long does it take? It takes like, what, 8 minutes for, I think, light to get to the sun? To Earth?
That sounds correct.
Computer, how long does it take light to get from the sun to the Earth?
Light takes 8 minutes and 19 seconds to travel from the sun to Earth. The journey would take about 21 years traveling in a commercial jet airliner at 500 miles per hour.
It would take 21 years flying at 500 miles an hour. And it takes 8 minutes. because it's traveling at the speed of light. At the speed of light, it still takes 8 minutes.
What's crazy is when you factor in like how fast the Earth is rotating
Yeah.
and how fast it is traveling through space around the sun.
That's why people get motion sickness.
What?
It's not because it's moving. It's because it makes you feel like you're standing still, and then the Earth is moving, and so then you're finally. No, actually, that's none of that's true. Sorry, that's all lies.
The Earth, according to what is this, scientificamerican.com, the Earth spins at 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, there's a really lovely song by Monty Python about all the factoids about how big the planet is.
This says the surface of the Earth at the equator moves at a speed of 460 meters per second.
And it also captures, that song captures, I think, one of the nicest nihilistic philosophies. It says, you came from nothing, you go back to nothing. What did you lose? Nothing. I think that's a very healthy way to look at life. An extremely healthy way to look at life. You come from nothing, you're going to go back to nothing. So, what did you lose? Nothing. Do a little living in between. Yeah, and then like you take a look at our solar system, and like the next closest thing outside of the solar system is what? Is Alpha Centauri one of the closest things? Computer, what's the closest heavenly body outside of the solar system?
Alpha Centauri A.
Here's something I found on the web. According to slideplayer.com, Mercury is the closest to the sun planet of the solar system.
Yeah, at heart I am a nihilist, so so yes, Dater, I will. You know what we all did? Today we all did the same thing. That's what's kind of nice. Today we all did the same thing. Everybody on the planet, we all did the same thing. We all got one day closer to being dead. All of us. Every single one of us.
It's true. It's the one great equalizer.
It is the great equalizer. And I strongly encourage, there's some things that talk about what the regrets people have on their deathbeds. And I seriously encourage people to think about those things on a continual basis. Because if you want to know how to live your life, I think that's a great place to get advice from. People that have done it and say, you know, maybe. And one of the things that they often say is what's like number 3rd on the list was, I wish I didn't work so hard. It was, I wish I spent more time with my loved ones. I wish that I wasn't so afraid. I wish that I would have been myself. There's like 10 things, and they're all really they're good stuff to think about. Let's see here.
Okay, so what I say, Alpha Centauri A was the closest star. Alpha Centauri is the closest star system and closest planetary system to Earth's solar system at 4.37 light years from the sun.
And a light year is the distance that light travels in a year?
Yep.
Yeah. Because I think that's a term that's confused, right? Often.
Is it?
I think so. I can't remember what the other version of that is. So a light year.
Maybe
I mean, because you're saying year, so I think people think time when it's actually distance, right? It's like I think fathoms or leagues is also because 20,000 leagues under the sea. I think that leagues is not, you don't use that as a term for depth or something like that. Then it's a term it's or something like that.
What is that? Fathoms is depth. Leagues, I think, is distance. Yeah. Well, that's not. Here we go. Let's use this. That's messed up, Tater. I think it was probably Shiza.
I think it was just JK. He's like, just kidding. Psych.
I saw something the other day that said that. Now, I'm pretty sure that this was just like when I was desperately trying to fall asleep and was kind of there, but not really. I saw some like a headline that said something about Einstein's brain was stolen and cut into a bunch of tiny pieces for ... because they wanted you to click on it.
Yeah. They got him and Walt Disney. The Colonel, right? He's part of the Illuminati. I always heard of the Colonel with his wee beady eyes.
Wasn't Kennedy? I think his brain was stolen too.
No, Kennedy's. Well, one, Kennedy's not really. He's not really dead.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad.
Kennedy. Kennedy used to hang out at that compound that dude killed himself over. Was it Epstein? So it was Kennedy, it was Jim Morrison, and Elvis. I know were at least three of the people.
Walked into a bar and then
that they used to hang out there. Yeah, all not dead.
Where was it they hung out?
Do you know who that Epstein guy was? The guy, if you were paying attention to social media, they kept saying he didn't actually kill himself. Are you familiar with that story?
The name is familiar, but I don't remember what the story was.
Yeah, so apparently there was this guy who was super rich that had an island of where he was doing nefarious things.
I thought he was still alive.
No,
American film and convicted sex offender, began his professional life as a teacher, but then switched to the banking and finance sector in various roles, working at Bear Stearns before forming his own firm.
Hardened firm.
Executed, ruled of suicide by blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. The amount of dirt that guy had to roll over, like there's pictures of him with like presidents and
there was a like art. So and so was in Jeffrey's Epstein's Black Book or whatever, which was that he supposedly acquired underage people for them to do whatever with.
Yeah, and this is anecdotal, but I know somebody who was traveling on a cruise that went by that place, and they asked the people on the boat about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like everybody knows what was happening there. You could almost kind of see it. Those houses there, that's where they tie the people up, kind of thing." It's like, damn. But there is a strata of society. This is where I'll put my tinfoil hat on. I do believe that there is a strata of society that is narrowly invisible to the commoner, of which I count myself.
Oh yeah.
And be it the dark web. He committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the head. Yeah. Once in the front and once in the back. Yeah. But Yeah, there's just some stuff that goes on that that I do kind of believe in some of that. I do kind of believe in some of that. But yeah, I don't think we've heard the end of that story, but we'll see. I mean, I generally don't believe in conspiracies because people can't keep secrets. What they say, it's impossible for 3 people to keep a secret. 2 people can keep a secret, but 3 people can't. Something like that. And then also just the amount of conspiracies, the amount of excellence and execution that it would require to pull off is beyond what I see most humans capable of, especially in groups. But so I typically shy away from conspiracy theories. There was a book that I'd read, I started to read. It was called The 50 Greatest Conspiracy Stories Ever Told. And it didn't purport these stories as true. It just said, hey, these are, regarded as, the 50 greatest conspiracies, and talked about the things surrounding them. And like one of them talked about Waco. One of them talked about the Templars. One of them talked about the Manson murders.
And what was this?
It was a book that talked about conspiracy stories and just kind of told you like, hey, this is regarded as a conspiracy, like say landing on the moon, and it wasn't saying that we didn't land on the moon. It was just saying this is the conspiracy, this is the what people regard as the possible conspiracy around it, and these are some of the information about it. And that was like the first time that I got hip to like Waco. And then there was an HBO documentary about the trials of Waco afterwards that are pretty enlightening. And yeah, Waco was like, was a totally avoidable situation that should have never happened in the first place. And it really seems that what happened was that there were some governmental agencies that were going to be losing funding if they didn't appear to be important. And so they got involved with, somebody who legally owned a bunch of arms, and they decided they're going to go in and shoot up the place. And you look at how they actually handled the situation, the psychological torture that they were doing on people. So you have all these people that have all these weapons, and so what you're going to do is you're going to try to make them crazy, because it was just... And there's a bunch of stuff that it was just like, what? And then it's like, afterwards, it was like, well, they did it because it was a cult and he was having sex with teenage girls. What does that have to do with the ATF? What does alcohol, tobacco, and firearms have to do with breaking up cults?
Yeah, they were saying that's how they get into those situations, is that they were saying that he was, what's the right word?
Stockpiling?
Stockpiling. Yeah, stockpiling armed. So that he had way too many. That there's I don't remember exactly. I think there's a law that you can't have.
Yeah, and there was times that he had actually invited people into the compound. There were people that came to the compound and said, "Hey, his grandmother said, can we de-escalate the situation?" And like, no, I mean, it was just. The whole thing was just rotten, and it's just like, and the thing is like, what is true and what is false. It's hard to tell, but what I can assure you is the way it was presented through conventional media was less than the full picture. That's what I came away with. You can do your own fact finding, but that's what I came away with, was that. Oof. And when you watch the trial, that you can just watch on HBO, and it's just like, okay.
This stuff, like with what Tater's talking about now about MK Ultra and stuff, it's like so much of the stuff is like,
oh yeah, that's called that was MK Ultra, and that's all you have to do is look. Yeah,
like you don't know, like, because okay, fine, but did somebody fake these records to try to put you off the scent of something else, or vice versa, or like, there's so much nefarious stuff that could potentially be happening behind the scenes to manipulate the situation either way. It's difficult.
Agreed. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like MK Ultra, that's not a rumor. That's disclosed information from the government. And that's all you need to do is look to see what the government admitted it did 30 years ago, and then tell yourself, yeah, they don't do that now. Oh, that was before. We did that in the past. We don't do that now. But yeah, basically, they were using acid, yeah, to try to control people. And I think there is a guy who ended up killing himself, and they kept denying rights to his family because they gave him acid and messed with his brain. I think the guy jumped out of a window or something. And they're like, and they blamed it on him. Yay! Yeah, things that go on behind closed doors, government-wise, things that happen. Especially what scares me too is, was after 9/11. Americans became, in my opinion, seemed to become a lot less caring about rights of people for the illusion of having a little bit more security. And so people who are not citizens, the things that that America is quote unquote legally allowed to do is frightening. Very, very, very frightening. Because it's like, we can detain you forever. What about my rights? You have no rights. You're not American. You have no rights.
Was that Homeland Security pretty much can do anything they want, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you're a citizen or not.
Yeah, because they can. Yeah, because they can basically just label you a terrorist.
Yeah.
And then they'll move you off soil but yeah, good times.
Like,
good times.
Like, are they monitoring all of the cell signals?
Yes.
There's some says yes, they are, but they're not like recording. Well.
Yeah, no, they are. That's the thing. It's like.
But they're not paying attention to everything you say. So
no,
they may have access to everything you said, but they're not paying attention to that. They have algorithms that are, looking for keywords and then like terrorist or bomb, whatever.
But the thing is there's no difference in saying we're listening and we're paying attention to everything you say and saying we're recording anything and we'll only look at it if we need to, because that still means that you can look at anything anybody says ever. So it's the same thing. It is exactly the same thing as listening to everybody. And yeah, that was some interesting with Snopes. Yeah. Yes, FBI agents. That's funny.
Yeah, I'm not expressing any views either way. I'm just stating stuff.
Fuck them. Fuck all of them.
I think the world is both more and less fucked up than we think it is.
Agreed. Yeah, and we talk about this a lot, right? That there's this idea that somehow right now we're more civilized, we're more cultured, we're more morally advanced, we're more educated, and all that is stupid in my estimation. Because, we've talked about, like ideas about sexuality. We're so backwards about our ideas about sexuality compared to some ancient cultures.
Yeah.
But we think that we're progressive, We're so progressive.
There was, I have heard, there was a documentary I watched years ago that was talking about ancient Egypt, and that there was a fertility festival where everybody just masturbated in the street and like spilled their seed on the ground. And
let there be great golden copulations. Little Jim Morrison for you.
And that was just, their yearly festival, fertility festival.
Yeah, I think he's actually talking about that. Dionysus. I think that was like Dionysus or something, right?
Well, that wouldn't have been in Egypt. That would have been.
Oh, I'm sorry, Egypt. That would be Greek, Greco-Roman or something.
Dionysus and Bacchus. I can't remember which is which, whether Roman versus Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ancient Egypt, they'd have fertility festivals like that. But yes, Greek and Roman the same way, at least at some point.
There's a reason they call it the Fertile Crescent.
What's talking about ancient Greece and Rome, some of the inventions they had, was it Heron? Was it the inventor, not the, let's see, I think it's Heron.
I'm gonna make up a custom dark metal something here. Start with a little bit of this rough iron and a little bit of that black metal.
Heron of Alexandria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dude invented a ton of cool shit back in the day.
Who did?
Heron.
Came up with heroin.
Heron
That
of
was pretty big.
Alexandria.
Did he hang out at the lighthouse?
This was circa 10 CE to circa 70 CE. And what CE is the newer... that's current era. So.
Oh, so that would be AD? CE is equal to AD?
Yes.
Okay.
And then BCE, so before current era and current era.
Because, man, that's like taking the Christ out of Christmas.
Heron of Alexandria was one of the finest mathematicians and inventors that the world has ever known. Worthy of mention alongside great Archimedes, he began to explore the practical uses of mathematics rather than concentrate upon number relationships and esoteric. Wait, I misread something there. Began to explore the practical uses of mathematics rather than concentrate upon number relationships and esoteric abstract mathematical laws. Gotcha. He can legitimately be called the father of physics because he moved away from pure reasoning towards empirical experiments, a break from the deductive approach of previous mathematicians. Let's see, some of the things he invented was like the first coin-operated vending machine, and it was in a temple and it dispensed holy water. The water organ. I don't remember what that is.
The water weasel.
It's ringing a bell, but I can't recall anything about it exactly. But he invented some steam-powered devices, but they weren't used.
But steam hadn't been invented yet, so kind of useless.
Yeah. No, but it's like a toy, or maybe a science toy, or something along those lines.
Yeah, because
rather than being used for any purpose really, because they didn't need to use it. They had slave labor, so.
I don't need a calculator. I got a person that does that for me.
Yeah, there was no need for them. It's one of those things of like,
I call him Abby.
He's the mother of all invention or whatever.
Necessity, yeah.
Necessity is the need or the mother of all. They didn't have a need for it to do anything, so they didn't explore that further.
But and I think it was that same. Isn't it that same time that they say that they actually discovered the origins of like computer logic or something like that? Machines that essentially are computers. I think it was also during that time of Alexandria.
They discovered that one device under the ocean that had gears and stuff in it, and I think it was for.
That's what I'm thinking of, and I thought that was from Alexandria, but I could be wrong.
Computations.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. Randy, can I take a moment to do a mental health minute?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. That I hate admitting there's things that I can't do. And I today I was Carrie, she's working from home, and I was watching her, just kind of overhearing her do her job, and I realized it's like I couldn't do her job. And that's not just being humble. I just don't think I had the skill set, and I really hate to admit that. But it was something I had to do with my old job. Like I could do my old job, but I couldn't do it and maintain my sanity. And I don't think I was ever going to be able to do that. And I had a really, 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 really hard time accepting that the to do what I was going to need to do to preserve my sanity, that cost was too high, and otherwise I was not going to be able to do it. I was never going to be able to achieve the balance that I wanted with my mental health. And it occurred to me as I was thinking about this that that when you're suffering from things like depression and anxiety, it's important to make yourself do things, right? To make sure that you're talking to people, that you're eating, that you're getting out of the house, that you're getting exercise, things like that. And you can't just allow yourself to wallow. But at the same time, that there's things that you don't have to ask yourself to do. And that there's things that might be too much for you to ask of yourself. And it is not your responsibility to do all things. So that's kind of the reflection that I had today when I was thinking about mental health, that you do have to push yourself when you're in these situations, but at the same time, you can ask yourself, am I asking too much of myself from this? And I think that is a totally healthy and acceptable thing to do.
Yeah. Was any time where you're beating your head up against the wall, or you're just really down on yourself, or you just generally, like, your health is at risk? Like, that's a time for assessment. And I think we all have, I pretty much think that everybody has, some basic drive to always want to be right on some level. Like, we don't want to be wrong. We want to know everything. We don't want to be perceived as stupid or weak.
Not knowing. Yep.
Yeah. It just doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel shitty. So trying to realize that and balance that out, and kind of be like, there's no possible way to know everything.
No.
Nobody can know everything.
No. And that's the thing. What's even funnier than that? Go ahead.
No, the stuff that our brightest minds have come to a consensus and say these are things we know. We don't necessarily know all of those things. They're theories. They're the best things.
The beliefs.
They may be wrong later on. That's, so anything is open to change over time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, conventional wisdom doesn't. Go ahead.
Of perception. Like, so much of reality is perception about this thing is this thing, this is right, this is wrong, but so much of that is perception and how you perceive it. And that can change based on where you were born, how you were raised, what your experiences have been. So everything is so mutable that to take one stance on things and beat yourself up over that's just not good practice. No,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, because there is not a lot of knowing. There's a lot of believing. There's little, if any, knowing.
Yeah. Be alert, be discerning, be curious, but don't be dogmatic. Don't be fixated.
Yeah. Hubris is a term I've come to enjoy, which it's kind of like this prideful arrogance, right? And it's a thing to I strongly think it's a good thing to try to avoid, and it's, you have to be circumspect. There's things that you believe to be true, absolutely true, that I guarantee you is false. And I'm saying this to myself, right? There's things that I absolutely believe to be true that are patently not true. But it could be a memory, a false memory that I have. It could be some knowledge, it could be a lot of different things. But so you have to be respectful of that. But then you can't also just live your entire life being circumspect and, doubting yourself either. So I try to say, live confidently, but with honest introspect. You have to keep, being willing to change your beliefs. But that doesn't mean that you have to just, be a sad sack, wishy-washy, you know. Those,
Hey,
you don't have to be that way.
leave me alone.
I meant those other assholes. Yeah. You know, it's funny.
Yeah, it's finding
I
that balance, and it's something that I'm constantly, reminding myself of and working on. Is trying to find the balance between like not being too hard on yourself, but at the same time not just not giving a shit about anything because you've given up, kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. You know, I'm been listening to Audible books when I go to sleep, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit, actually. You know, instead of trying to fall asleep watching something, I'll watch something and then I'll switch to an Audible book, and have a couple that I've been bouncing between. But I was looking, when you subscribe to Audible, you get a credit every month for a book that you can download. And so I was looking at some of the things, and you're putting things on the wish list. And there's an author, I don't know if you're familiar with her. Her name is, and I might mispronounce this wrong, I think it's Ayn Rand. It's Aynrand, I believe. Ayn.
The last name familiar.
And I'll type it in the chat. Second. I believe it is Ayn Rand. And she wrote things like Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged.
Okay.
And those are some pretty. There's another one. Anthem, I think, is another one. And so she is. I guess there's a set of beliefs that are centered around her philosophies, and it's called objectivism. Computer, what are the 4 tenets of objectivism?
I don't know that.
Computer, what is objectivism?
Objectivism is a philosophical system developed by Russian-American writer Ayn Rand. Rand first expressed objectivism in her fiction, most notably The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, and later in non-fiction essays and books. Leonard Peikoff, a professional philosopher and Rand's designated intellectual heir, later gave it a more formal structure.
So, objectivism, what she was saying was that it's not subjective, that there is a moral objective, that there is a moral truth. But one of the tenets is also about individualism, and yet also another one of the tenets is the endorsement of laissez-faire capitalism. And I am confused about how you marry all of those things. And it's like I don't think that I'm gonna be able to read the books. I've been told that I should read Atlas Shrugged. I've been told I should read The Fountainhead, and man, I'm just really struggling because I think it's going to put me in a real negative mind space. But let me take a quick look here. Objectivism.
So I've got a definition for laissez-faire. Driving the principle behind laissez-faire, a French term that translates as leave alone, literally let you do, is that the less the government is involved in the economy, the better off will be, and by extension, society as a whole. Laissez-faire economics are a key part of free market capitalism.
Yeah, so there's 4 main principles: objective reality, absolute reason, individualism, and laissez-faire capitalism. And so objective reality. Computer, what is objective reality?
Here's something I found on Wikipedia. Objectivity is a philosophical opinion or method that believes that reality exists outside of the human mind.
Reality exists outside of the human mind. So what do you think about that, Randy?
You said objectivity for that one, I think.
Yeah.
No, if that's
Uh,
same or just
Objective reality is that there is a reality exists outside of the human mind. So everything isn't subjective. Is kind of, I think, she would say.
object. Bleh. Okay, if I could speak, it'd be awesome. Object is wow.
It would be awesome, Randy, especially since that's what we're counting on. Like, there's nothing else you're providing other than the talk. So please, make with the words. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The first definition for, what is this? Oxford. The tendency to lay stress on what is external to or independent of the mind. And then 2 is philosophy, a belief that certain things, especially moral truths, exist independently of human knowledge or perception of them. Wow.
And so it was talking about, like, and there was one thing, it's like, it's saying it is universally wrong to torture somebody just for fun. That is a moral objectivism, right? That it doesn't require you to know anything. That's just wrong. It is just wrong. And okay, I can't right off the bat disagree with that. So okay, but I guess the thing is that maybe this is the thing.
Regardless of what you know or think, he believes that you would feel whether something is right or wrong. Regardless of what you know or think.
That right or wrong exists outside of your feelings, I think is what I think that they're trying to get at.
Well, this is saying so the philosophy is, I believe that certain things, especially moral truths, exist independently of human knowledge or perception of them.
Right. So it wouldn't be that you necessarily have that all people have an intrinsic knowledge of these things. It's that these things exist outside of that. That there is a truth. That there is a truth. So you can't say, like, it does, like, we could say, well, nobody can ever know anything, and so we can't even have a conversation about it, right? Because nobody can know what truth. Truth doesn't even exist, right? There is no truth. And this is saying there is a truth. We might disagree about it. We can talk about it, but that there is a singular truth. It isn't just my set of beliefs and your set of beliefs. That there is a truth. There is something which is true. I think that's kind of at the heart of it.
But okay, I mean, fine. There's things that are outside you that are or are not true, or that are true, and it's either. So is there a concept of right or wrong? I mean, moral implies.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So she's saying, because the example. Yeah, because the example that they gave was that it's wrong. That was, I think, the term that I saw, and this was just cursory fact finding on the internet late at night. So do your own. But it was that it is wrong to torture somebody just for fun. That is a moral truth that exists regardless of your knowledge of it. Even without words, for a Cro-Mag to torture another human being just for the fun of it would be wrong. But
yeah, I mean, the further you explore this, the more interesting it becomes, because you get into, like, animalistic behaviors and stuff, like how what determines how do humans differ from an animal, what makes us human, because if there was an animal that killed simply for, that, or at least seemed to, maybe we're anthropomorphizing there, but there seem to be some animals that kill just for fun, for no reason. Whether that's actually true or not, I don't know, but it's believed that, say, minks, for example, they just kill for fun. I have heard.
Yeah, and I guess maybe, it gets into semantics, but, maybe there is something where it has to do with maybe a sentient creature, and then what's sentient, self-aware creature or something like that. I mean, maybe it is a little bit more complicated than that. Because, you bring up some interesting thoughts there with that.
The other thing is like how, okay, so she's like saying these are things that exist and they're outside of, it's not outside of human experience, it's outside of our knowledge, which exist independently of human knowledge. It could be perceived, that statement alone could be perceived in multiple ways, just in this snippet.
Captain Madlove, thanks so much for the follow. We super appreciate that. I hope that you're having a great day, and welcome to the Q Continuum. Chad, if you could give a welcome, we would appreciate that. Madlove, the Captain Madlove. As we're sitting here and gazing at our nails, talking about Ayn Rand and moral objectivism, and painting our Daleks.
I'm not sure they're currently on the stream at the moment.
What's that?
I don't see that name.
I don't either. I don't see it in my viewers, but I saw that they followed, so I don't know. Maybe they could have been following us on YouTube as well. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
Since we're broadcasting on both YouTube and Twitch, so I try to eyeball the Twitch chat. So, and Randy chose to keep an eye on the YouTuber. We definitely appreciate.
So my question is like, if these things are outside of, let's see, they're independent. They exist independently of human knowledge or perception of them.
I think I'm going to take...
But how do you experience those things? So you were saying, like when I said you have a feeling, like even though you may have been told, humans may have told you that this is right or wrong, or that it doesn't matter, or whatever. Those would be perceptions of human knowledge and perceptions of these things, these moral truths. That even if they said it was right, you would feel it was wrong. And you said, no, it's separate from feeling, because you're taking that as part of the human things, human experience, that it's that it is negating. So my question is, how you're experiencing this thing if it's not through your feelings?
Yeah, and here's something, Randy. I want to share with you. You can hear me okay? I'm sitting at the computer. I'll change our
you sound
our view. Okay, here, I want to read you something. So there's a band, Rush. I'm a huge fan of the lead singer, drummer, or not lead singer, the writer. He wrote all the songs and was the drummer, amazing drummer, Neil Peart, an amazing lyricist as well. He just recently died, but they're one of the greatest bands of all time. But he has a song called The Trees, and this is based on Ayn Rand. Not Ayn Rand. And it says, there is unrest in the forest, there is trouble with the trees, for the maples want more sunlight, and the oaks ignore their pleas. The trouble with the maples, and they're quite convinced they're right, is they say the oaks are just too lofty, and they grab up all the light. But the oaks can't help their feelings if they like the way they're made, and they wonder why the maples can't be happy in their shade. There is trouble in the forest, and the creatures all have fled, and the maples scream oppression, and the oaks just shake their heads. So the maples formed a union and demanded equal rights. The oaks are just too greedy. We will make them give us light. Now there's no more oak oppression, for they have all passed a noble law, and the trees are all kept equal by hatchet, axe, and saw.
That's really cool.
But, I mean, you and I have talked about this before, about that's what is it? Is competition or cooperation the more noble motive? right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
capitalism is based on competition, not cooperation. And this is promoting that capitalism, and it's saying that you can't, that it's wrong to make everybody equal, right? There's another story I remember about like people who had like were stronger than other people. Well, they should have to bear more weight. You would put more weight on them so that they would have to walk around because they're too strong and they're too capable. So you have to lower people's abilities so that everybody can be equal. And I think that there's a bad misnomer with that. It's an interesting idea. It's a neat metaphor, and it definitely is grounds for exploration. And I think it talks about when things go too far the other way. But to say that what happens is that even if you look at this, that in this metaphor of the trees, that success breeds success, right? So if you're able to get sunlight, then you're able to get more sunlight. And the more sunlight that you're able to grab, the even more sunlight that you're going to be able to grab, right? And it's the same situation that we have with, I think, economics, right? That when you have money, it's easier to make more money. And when you're poor, it's easier to get poor. And that's the problem, is that there is, it's probably Marxism or something. It talks about the people that own the machines, those who own the machines have means at their disposal that other people don't have. So it's
both systems. If you're talking about capitalism and communism, or
socialism, and not even in practice, but in theory. Not necessarily in practice, but in theory.
Both systems have, like everything else, have their positives and negatives. Whether in theory in simple theory, it is like what communism is, that everybody's working together for a common goal, and so, like you're saying, cooperative. And the simplest theory of capitalism would be that everybody's competing, and then furthering that provides a benefit, and that supposedly lowers prices, whatever, when there's competition, encourages people to do their best and to try to one up each other, thus advancing technology and whatever. The problem with both of them is that there's a potential for greed to become involved, and that's the real problem. Because if there was, like in capitalism, you have competition, that's fine, but if the person that is getting the most reinvests all of that back into the system, it's fine, it's cool, everybody benefits. But if they're just hoarding that for themselves,
that's interesting. Yeah, see, because that's what I was thinking.
The system breaks.
Because this is funny, right? Because we're very much a pro-capitalist society here, and America, is based upon that. And the thing is that but man, that dude that was hoarding toilet paper and like sanitary or stuff that he wanted to sell, it was like, that's bad. That's called profiteering. What the fuck is profiteering in a capitalist society? That doesn't make sense to me at all. It's all profiteering. It's like, oh well, that you got too greedy. What?
Yeah.
Who decides it's too greedy? And it's just like, oh, because people are hurting? Well, people are hurting all the other time when you're doing your profiteering in normal. And it's like, it's just so funny that it's like, well, that's...
You want to believe that things... Yeah.
It's like war. It's like rules in war, right? It's like, that's just stupid. That is so stupid.
Yeah, you want to believe that things are working properly and stuff, and that that everybody's got everybody else's best interest at heart, but it's just too often not really the case. There's the whole, like, I better take care of myself because nobody else is going to. And just kind of file, not like, hey, that's their burden to bear. I've got mine. Like, let them deal with theirs.
Yeah. Here's the thing too. Like, if we re-examine the trees example, right? So here's the thing: is I'll take maybe the FBI can stop paying attention and we'll get somebody else to hate me now. Monsanto. I think Monsanto is the devil. I think it's about as closest thing as you can have to the devil on earth is Monsanto. And if you don't know who it is, you can take a look who Monsanto is. They're the makers of, I think, Roundup and all these other things, and they have a strong hold on on America in a lot of crazy ways. And you take a look at an organization. A corporation is not a human, right? So when something is not human, is oppressing humans, that's not the trees. That's not the oaks who are denying the maples, right? That is a system that is helping the oaks and not helping the maples, right? And it's just like the example that I want to give is that when Monsanto sues a farmer for accidental cross-pollination and will just tie them up in court to bankrupt them so that they can continue the corporation, it's a system that is benefiting a system, not benefiting people. It's a system that's benefiting itself. And I think that's something that
So it's a problem where we have checks and balance, supposedly have checks and balances, but those checks and balances are broken because they're so easily subverted by those with the means to do so. So yeah, exactly. And that happens a lot. Corporations or just wealthy individuals have so much money that they don't care if you take them to court. Because they can just tie you up forever.
Or they will intentionally take you to court. I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was watching an episode of
drag it out just to bankrupt you.
Yeah, I was watching an episode of Silicon Valley, and it was talking about troll patents. And it's a fictional show, but it's based on a lot of real things. And it was talking about troll patents, and so somebody who has a patent, and they know that it doesn't have anything to do with your patent, but they'll tie you up in court, and it'll be cheaper for you to settle than it will to go to court. It's a nuisance. I remember when I had an insurance accident that I wasn't really involved in, and somebody sued me just because I was there, and it was like the insurance, like, this is just a nuisance settlement. That's what they call it. It's just a nuisance settlement. It's cheaper than actually. And it's just like,
a lot of questions
that's the way of the world.
That kind of stuff, and maybe it was just conspiracy theories, but you could certainly see where it was true. And I think there was some factual basis for a lot of the stuff. It was talking about specifically like oil industries or the automobile industries. Take specifically the automobile industry. That was better technology that would have been able to allow a car engine that never overheated and got a ridiculous amount of miles per gallon, but it was silenced. Like somebody either bought the rights to it and silenced it up, or that person mysteriously went missing. And those things happen. Like espionage is real. Like it does happen. Corporate espionage actually does happen, and sabotage.
Yeah.
Or people buying the rights to something and then shoving that under the rug because it contradicts what their main product is.
Yeah, I had a teacher in high school, and his brother had invented this thing that was supposed to help with boring through blockages and arteries and stuff. And it was this saw that was really ingenious. I saw a demo of it, and he said they got bought by Johnson & Johnson, who just sat on it because they own balloon dilation, and they didn't want to have to compete with it. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no.
And then it gets into an issue where like people or corporation with money, with power, can rub elbows and collude more.
Yeah.
Power and money behind them as a collective. There's a lot of double dealing and backhanded stuff and behind the scenes stuff going on. That just worsens all of that, the stuff we're talking about, to the next level, where perpetuates it further.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Tater brought up.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah, Tater
ahead.
brought up something here too about it says so the same as rich not paying taxes, and I think that this is interesting, right? Because this is the thing is like, well, why is it fair that somebody who makes more money should have to pay a higher percentage of taxes? Or just even more. I mean, if I drive on the roads the same as everybody else, so if I'm rich, why would I have to pay 5 times as much for road care? Things like that. Why should I pay 5 times as much for military? And the reason is because there's reasons. But and the thing is, and that's what happens is that there's with this, you can say, well, the rich are actually providing jobs for people, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and so they should actually have tax cuts, and that's kind of where we've gotten to today, where the rich don't have to pay a lot, but yet they often are accusing that they do, but yeah, you can see that some people, it's like they don't pay like anything in taxes, and there's all kinds of loopholes to get around all this stuff, and then
even further than that.
Good.
I saw a thing about Amazon that was talking about how not only do this particular thing was saying, not only do they not pay taxes because of the tax breaks that they get, it takes it to another level in that they get basically paid by the government because
subsidized
of all the loopholes within the laws that they're able to use, and the handouts that are given, because if they create a new facility within an area, then they won't have to pay any taxes as part of the incentive to get them to move there. And then on top of that, they're getting various cuts and benefits from the government. And it was talking about like in the millions and billions potentially of dollars.
Yeah.
Potentially every year.
And let me.
Yes, they're providing a lot of jobs and stuff, but at the same time, like there's got to be some equalizing factor there. And there was another thing that was saying that this is actually equalized by other means, but it was very unclear as to whether that was actually, what side of the slider the equalization was was on there.
I think also thinking about a counterpoint to this, I think that some elders in my family regarded unions like, it was like unions can be good and unions can be bad, and he thought that unions unions are good when, like, there's unfair working conditions and things like that. There's times when people need to strike for wages and things like that. But like, he felt that the American auto industry was killed by unions, and I'm sure that there's lots of people that probably share this. That I think one of the criticisms is that we're paying unskilled workers a crazy amount because of the power of the unions. That the power that unions have over these companies, and these companies can't compete. But the thing is they can't compete globally with countries who are known for human right violations, and child labor. So
slave labor, either directly or indirectly slave labor.
So is it that the union is bad, or is it that the union makes it so that you can't compete with people who have slave labor? Yeah, it's like I don't know, but I do think that there
used to be a thing with mine, the railroad, and mines. Where,
oh yeah. That's a great example.
Basically, play to the system, because once you had a job there, they kind of made everything. They centered everything so like you had to stay there, and you had to buy your goods from them. Yeah. So you may be paid in like
credits,
some form of
coupons.
Credits basically. That you then have to use
at the company store
facility.
The company store.
Yeah. That being like either you don't really make anything, or you actually end up owing them money.
Yeah.
Even though you're down there risking life and limb every day, getting the black lung, doing a thankless job, and they're just totally taking advantage of the system. So that's an extreme situation that actually did happen. That where something like that is necessary to try to promote worker safety and a sense of equality. And
I mean, that's a great example, right? The mines and the railroads, and it was like, what happened there? You know, some of the atrocities of working conditions in mines and things like that. That's where you can see the need for this.
Example of that also, there's so much there. That's such a rich source of examples there.
Mm-hmm.
Of the corruption and greed within the corporate mindset, or so somebody is going to that mine, and they may well know that it's totally unsafe, that it's extremely dangerous. The conditions are not being met. The safety stuff is not in place.
Right.
But they sweep it under the rug. They keep it quiet. They buy shoddy equipment just to save a buck. And that's one thing if somebody is doing the best they can, if that is simply the best that they can do.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm sorry, you're saying that you can't afford to pay your workers or buy them the right stuff, but you gave yourself a multi-million-dollar bonus for Christmas last year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we just have to look at the bailouts, right? The bailouts and all the
exactly.
Yeah, it's like too large to fail, but then everybody got what they did was they take that money and they make sure everybody gets bonuses before they dissolve the company, or give everybody a golden parachute.
That was, but yeah, when all of the automobile industry, I believe it was during the Obama administration, they asked Obama for bailouts, and he granted it to try to help the economy. And then they ended up taking that money, supposedly, and just spending it on giving their executives vacations. Yeah. Quote unquote. Instead of using it for what it was intended to bail the company.
Yeah.
And the work. That's a prime example of, corruption and greed.
Yep. Yeah, it's
and it sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks, and I can't see any feasible solution that's actually going to happen. And I hate talking about this kind of stuff more because I don't like to be a naysayer. I like to try to look on the bright
sure.
But when you do analyze things, it really does seem dank and dark and dreary. Because what is the solution, and what is the likelihood that solution will actually be put in place?
Yeah, my dad always said that, life is a pendulum. Things, they swing one way and then they'll swing the other way. And what happens is, one side will get momentum and it'll swing too far, and then it'll correct itself and it comes back. And I kind of think of things like McCarthyism, right? The witch hunts that you have, and that you'll have something bad that'll happen, and it'll cause people to be able to say, hey, we need to not do this anymore, right? I mean, we had it with 9/11. That was one thing that caused the pendulum to swing one way. We're like, hey, we want to do it another way now. And then there needs to be something where there's, some gross violation of human rights that is so public that it becomes in the consciousness of people that, it causes us to be able to change, and causes that change to happen for a significant period of time until we all lose sensitivity to it and do it again. But
that stuff is going on places. Like, when we got hit by 9/11, it was like, oh my God, it shook our world so much. I remember that day, the feeling that you got on that day of wondering, like, did this actually happen? This is actually a thing. This really happened here in America? And some people were talking about, like, yeah, I actually have family that works in the tower. Like, people that that we work with actually had family, like uncles or cousins or whatever that worked in the towers. And there was some questions about like whether the building next door, because it was a state building or a federal building, if it was going to be a target.
Yeah.
And no, there was a possibility that it was supposedly. Um, and so how upturned that made us feel, and the shock and kind of the impending doom that brought to our lives. There's other people that deal with that kind of feeling every day.
Yeah.
They're being bombed
Yeah.
every day, you know, and like we are still removed from that.
Yeah.
It's another first world problems versus third world problems.
Yep.
We're so out of touch with that. Like, oh, this one incident made us like that, but other people that's there every day. And we're in America. We're not in the midst of that, so we don't think about that.
Yeah.
Life's great. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then there's like down in my mind is failing me. I'm just gonna say like the Panama area or whatever, where drugs, like drug czars and
Colombia and stuff like that.
Colombia. Where there's huge like militia mobs and stuff that go and rape the women and steal the children and rape them to be, self-perpetuating themselves and continue that cycle. And there's a lot of stuff that's not being done about that.
Yeah.
Because that's over there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, some of the things that happen, like, I don't know about you, but it's like, I got to where it's like, I got scared to travel, right? Because it's just like, man, what the hell is going on? Some of these places. There are some places.
Targets too. Oh.
I remember we had, had friends that went to Brazil, right? And they were doing some climbing in the tree forest, and their flight had gotten delayed, so they put them up in a hotel, and the guy was standing outside, and the concierge, who had 2 guns, says, "You can't stand out here. This is not safe for you."
Yeah.
And it's just like, can you imagine going to a hotel and somebody that was packing 2 handguns telling you can't stand out here in the lobby, or outside the lobby, in the front door?
Didn't Parky have to travel somewhere where it was like that?
He traveled to Bulgaria and
You gotta stay.
He's like, there's like, he said all the taxis would tell you, if you have a problem, you do not go to the police.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. And it's just the world is.
We want to believe that humanity can be like that the world can be like that. We want to believe that it's in the past, and that those things either didn't really happen, or that they happened and they will never happen again. But nope, it's there. It's rife in the world.
Yeah. True.
It's frustrating and sad. But...
Let's see here. Yeah, indeed. So how about them planets?
Yeah. I'm like trying to come up with a good takeaway from that, and I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. So.
Yeah, I don't either. Part of how I got us here, I think, was talking about. Hey, thanks, brother. We appreciate you hopping on, man. As always.
We're gonna talk about the happy stuff now.
Med love. Yeah, we'll talk about the funny stuff now that you're gone. Was talking about Ayn Rand, and I like I said, it was somebody I'd heard about, but I just didn't know a lot about. And when it came to terms about like moral objectivism and capitalism, and it was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know that I have the makeup to be able to healthily process that. But I don't know. We may see. I might need to, just because.
Give it a go.
Yeah, but
don't not do it just because you think you might not love something. Try it and decide from there. Yeah. I have a lot of trouble with that stuff. Just reading in general, but especially audiobooks. Like where I'll lose focus and like find myself reading the same sentence like 10 times. it's worse with audiobooks because it will either put me to sleep, or I'll get distracted, and then have to rewind and listen to it again. There's a third option that I was going for that I can't remember. That's my problem. Oh, the voices. If it's a narrated book.
Yeah, it can be a problem.
I'm so sensitive to certain sounds and stuff that a lot of if it's something acted or if it's something that's just read, it can get nerves so much that I just can't deal with it.
Yeah, sure. We all have our sensitivities and things that drive us nuts. Like, I was talking about how tinfoil drives me nuts, and this is what it is for me. Now that maybe that sounds great to somebody else, but somebody's voice can remind you of somebody or just kind of set you on nerve. I mean, we've talked about some people that we worked with, that there was a couple of people I had to be on calls with, and it was like, that person's voice sounds like two balloons rubbing together, and I just want to choke them. And but this is what it is. But yeah, I could see where that. I was looking at some of these reviews to some of these books, and someone was like, I tried this before with another narrator, and I couldn't enjoy it, but this one I really liked. But they mentioned this thing, and that seemed like, this seems so wrong. And it was saying, because the book was the protagonist was a female, right? And it's a first person point of view of a book, and it's like, I can't believe that you're going to have a male narrator read a female's point of view first person book. Why would you do that? And I'm like, why would you do that? And that seems so wrong. I was like, gosh, man, that is kind of, why would you do that? There's no need to do that, other than short-sightedness and laziness and if you don't have a capable female narrator, that's your fault.
I mean, was that a choice or an oversight?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see it that somebody has rights to some, publishing house has rights to some books, and they've got narrators, and so they're just churning them out, right? And so somebody crunched some numbers, and somebody probably just isn't thinking, right? It didn't occur to them that, this is, so. Yeah, that stuff happens.
We've already paid for them to make so many books. They're under contract. Let's just
yeah. So I mean, it doesn't have to be, I guess, nefarious, but it is such an oversight that it's like, yeah, I could see that. I'd take umbrage to that.
A lot of things, though, are based on market research that may state that. In that case, they found that the sample population decided that they preferred the male voice to the female voice.
You know what market research found? That it was a lot more profitable to talk about ancient aliens than it was to talk about Hitler.
Yeah.
And that's what's sad, is that all these things that you're talking about, and that's why they go that way, right? It's like it's sad to see what the lowest common denominator is, right? Because the lowest common denominator gives us the Jersey Shore. And there's a reason why MTV does that, right? That's a very profitable thing for them to do, and people are watching it, so they don't want to watch highly crafted art music videos. They want to watch
anything where people are just arguing all the time. I don't understand.
I don't either. I'm with you.
Anybody can watch that and get enjoyment out of that. And it must be some like Schadenfreude sort of situation or something.
I'm like you. It hurts me. It hurts me to see people argue with each other. Yeah. And I get it gives me consternation. But yeah, some people, I don't know what it is. But yeah, some people really, really get into it. I think the thing that I first became aware of this trend with talk shows was with American Chopper, and it's a shop that was run by a dad and his son, and they would usually, he's building a bike and the dad's building a bike, and they compare and contrast, but they argued all the time, and so the show just became about them arguing, right? And
a lot of the stuff is like they're maybe perhaps told that, you guys need to do this,
yeah.
Are dipping in more conflict, and that draws interest and stuff.
Yeah, like in reality shows, it's like, you hear people from the very first reality show I remember, Real World on MTV. They're like, there was nothing real about this, right? This is edited. These conversations didn't happen like this. This conversation didn't actually happen. They took 4 different conversations and they edited them together. Or, what you can do is you film somebody all day, right? You're going to get all kinds of crazy footage, and then you could say whatever you want, and I could make my reaction be whatever I wanted it to be. The editor could make it be whatever, right? If I ate something and I had a stink face, and then you say, well, I think that I think it's really important to be nice to people, and then you put me with that stink face on, and it's just, that's what that stuff is. It's all just created by the editors
and taken out of context, but put together and made it into something that really not. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Here, take a look.
It's like if you're not really constantly vigilant about that stuff, and maybe even if you are, your mind just, if it's well edited, you won't notice.
Yeah.
You won't notice that, hey, that doesn't really go there. That's not really what happened. They cut that from a different scene.
There was something that talking about that vigilance, right? So you don't have YouTube videos because you pay for the non, and I still have them because I want to be aware of that experience, especially from a user thing. So if I get to a point where I can actually start putting commercials and things, I want to kind of be aware of that experience. So there's this commercial I keep seeing that comes up for a thing. I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, I can. But as soon as we had like DVR, as soon as being able to record television so you can skip through the commercials, as soon as that was a thing, and now like paying for I forget what aspect it is exactly that I'm.
So I'm seeing a commercial for the newspaper. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That I'm paying for that makes it so that I don't have the ads within YouTube. I can't stand if I'm not logged in.
Sure.
Or if I'm watching somebody else's and they have an ad.
Yeah, no, I hate it. One of the things I do like about Hulu, the Hulu that I had that has commercials, is it'll tell you how long the commercial is going to be. So I really find that's helpful because I can get up and go run to the bathroom or something, or I'm going to pull up my phone and look for 2.5 minutes or something. But so there's this commercial I'm seeing all the time, and I just put it in chat what it's for. It's for a newspaper called Epoch Times, EPOCH, like epoch as in like time period. And it's like, we are non-affiliated. We do not have a political bias. We're just all about the truth. And anytime somebody says something like that, it makes my spidey sense go nutty, right? And they're showing like, here's Chinese communists burning down our thing. They've done this 4 times just because they don't want the truth out there, blah, 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 blah. And so it's like, what's going on here? So I did a little looking into it, and I'll let people do their own fact finding on it. But I found that it seems that they have very heavy ties that control their point of view that tend to be religious based. And extremely. And it's just so funny. It's like, we have no affiliation with nothing. And it's just like, okay. And I guess in particular, they're known for being very they're very anti-communist, anti-Chinese communist. And so a lot of what they do is about, doing some things about anti-Chinese communism. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing at all. But I just found their commercials will be extremely disingenuous. And so you can do your own fact finding. But that's the thing. It's like whenever somebody tells you, like, we're good, I just assume by default they're not, right? And it's like, same thing with like these things that you get, right? Please forward on, this thing. Oh. Anything that tells you that, you got to assume that is not true, right? Just assume that this is.
If anything ever says, forward this on, the ones that try to manipulate you emotionally too, that try to make you feel like you're a bad person if you don't send this on, automatic, like, nope. That's just a chain letter. It's extremely rude. Don't send this. Don't try to manipulate somebody into feeling that they're doing wrong by not sending this to other people. So much of that stuff is just a scam anyway, whether it be trying to introduce a virus or whatever. Uh, Even if it's not that, even if it really is just somebody saying something, don't pass that on if it has a message that tries to guilt the other person or anything. It's just not right.
I'll tell you what was interesting there for a while, and I think it backlashed against them. But if you've never looked into Scientology and any like documentaries or anything about that, but there was a famous actress who was in the Church of Scientology, and then she came out, and I think she had a show that talked about it, and the Church of Scientology started taking out YouTube ads to personally demean her.
Mm-hmm.
Like showing her father talking smack about her. And it's just like...
A lot of that stuff is like...
It was like...
sanctioned by the church? Was this... Or was it just individuals that took on themselves to do this? And will we ever know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And I mean, it was more than a casual thing, right? And it was, I mean, you were just getting nailed with it. You were just seeing it all the time there for a short period of time. And it was just like, man, for one person, for an organization to rally against an individual, there was something about it that just felt really, really, really wrong. And it was just like, okay. Because it's like, even if this person is throwing salt on you, that's not how you combat that, right? It was just like, it made me want to believe more, not less. And so I think that they did get some negative press about it. But there's some really interesting things that you'll find if you look into it. Again, it's like with conspiracy theories. You know, I'm not sure what's truth, what's fiction, but there's some interesting stories to be mined if you go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
For
I wish
sure.
there was, if there is, and somebody knows, please let me know. There should be like a worldwide organization that facts checks everything, and then once everything has been verified thoroughly by multiple credible sources, then that's when it is added to this database that is free for everybody to view, to learn things that are actually true and interesting.
Yeah, because right now American media, like, I don't trust any American media at this point, because it's like everything is so slanted.
Yeah,
it's like I don't want to listen to the people that have the same beliefs as me, because you can't learn by people just telling you things that you already know. So you have to have something outside of what you know and what you believe. But
yeah, and it's like with YouTube, the internet in general, but we'll say YouTube as an example. There's so much great content out there, but there's so much bullshit, and there's so much, either this person is crazy or they are deliberately trying to mislead you, or whatever. But there's so much misinformation there that's presented as fact, and people really believe that.
Yeah.
So you have to be on guard of being like, well, this looks really good. Is this real?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and we had a little bit of that, right, when we were starting to talk about Alan Watts, and it was just like, hey, here's some stuff, but history has taught us, let's not be too hasty here. I don't know
about it. All I know, he's a Nazi. So
yeah, exactly. He kills children for fun. I don't know. You know, and it's like, yeah, exactly. You gotta be careful.
So it would be nice if there was a source where all that stuff,
like a Snopes, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And that's what what made me mad about that Epoch Times thing, was that they were coming off like finally somebody who doesn't have a point of view. And it's just like,
they're trying to be something they're not,
assholes.
Pretending to be something they're not.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, and people fall for it.
Yep.
I still can't believe that there's so much scams going on with people trying to get money from like elderly people or whatever, and a lot of them are done very well, but a lot of them are done very poorly. People still fall for it.
Yeah.
I don't understand how a lot of these things are being fallen for.
Um,
And it's bad.
I think that, yeah, it's horrible. Taking advantage of old people for monetary gain is I think it's just one of the saddest evils out there. It is so horrible, and I think that there's a very special hell for people like that. I want to believe in hell just so that people that do that
Yeah.
can go there,
Yeah.
because that is just about. I can't imagine what has happened to you in your life that thinks that you are justified in stealing from old people, that manipulating people's mental frailty for your monetary gain is just a whole kind of evil.
Of there's a sucker born every minute, and if you're not taking advantage of that, then you're one of the suckers.
Yeah,
Which just
it's horrible.
ugh.
And that's the thing. It's like that's where I think that we both are frightened by, philosophies that embrace things like capitalism, right? It's because it seems like that's what you're promoting, right? Everybody's got to get theirs, and and that's what your job is. Your job is to get yours, and if everybody's getting yours, and greed will be the balance of power. And the sad thing is, it works because it's about the only thing that you can count on. So, is that people won't be too strong. That I think that the reason that capitalism.
Your camera, by the way.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm. This is. I got to pay attention on this. I'm being very still, Randy. I'm focused. Is that let me switch to the camera real quick. What was I talking about? Sorry.
I don't know. Change them up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Sorry, I wanted to make
No, that's no. I appreciate. it. That's my fault, not yours.
Hold on, let me rewind the video.
You don't have to do that.
Oops.
Yeah, no. We were talking about people taking advantage of old people, and there being a very special kind of hell, and it's like I just don't know what would make a person feel justified in doing. Oh, and it's about these things that promote greed, right? And that's what is so frightening is that. Is that greed is the balance of power, and it works because what happens is that the idea is that when you get you'll get successful, and you'll start to rest on your laurels, and you'll get bloated, and so then somebody who's younger and fresher will come up and will be able to topple you. But I think that that doesn't always work, but it works enough that I think that we have this illusion of comfort with it. Like, oh yeah, okay, I get that. That works, and that, that what happens is that you'll do something, but somebody will do it. You'll want to overcharge, but somebody who's young and hungry, they'll come in and they'll undercharge, and so then that challenges you, and that's that everybody's greed will cause the prices to get lower and things to get better, and this isn't always the way it happens.
Yeah,
it was like I had a job that for a radio station, and you have to sign paperwork. It's just I'm just like working as like an assistant to a salesperson, right? And you have to sign paperwork about payola. That's a real word. And there's another. It's called payola, and also playola. So I had to sign something that said that I would not gauge in payola or playola. Now, granted, I didn't have anything to do with any of that, but because there was such a problem, I think actually Dick Clark got in trouble for this. Is my understanding. Do your own fact finding. That about people paying DJs to play their music, and that the only way that you would ever get your music played was by getting paid, and that's what payola or payola is, and pay to play, and that was so nefarious that I still today, this was, I don't know, 10 years ago, but 10 years ago I had to, sign paperwork because that had gotten it was so prevalent that that's what anybody who worked for a radio station would have to do, would have to sign paperwork. If that doesn't speak to the inherent tendencies for these systems to go the wrong way, you know what I mean? That's what I took out of it, at least. Alrighty. Well,
I'm trying to go back through and get points that we were starting to talk about and didn't finish.
you really don't. That's a rabbit hole. Well, Randy, we're at 2 hours and 20 minutes. This might be a good place for us to take a break. I got some pink wash here on the squid head. Let me get to our M50 here. So
I just wanted to end instead of on a happier note.
Oh yeah, man, we can absolutely do that. Absolutely. Let's think of something happy. What are tell me, you're in Spider-Man DLC, right? You say you started it?
Yeah, I'm on the last DLC of Spider-Man PS4.
I think I got about halfway through that.
I thought you finished it all.
No, I finished the main game and I started the DLC and I got stuck. I mean, I didn't get stuck, but I think I ended up getting the Ginger Jedi game, and that's when I stopped.
Oh yeah.
Because I was at Christmas time and I had a gift certificate, and but I am looking forward to going. What did you feel about the DLC? I thought it was, if I was to give the main game 100%, which I probably wouldn't give it 100%, I'd probably give it, I don't know, 97 or something. But if it was 100, I would say that maybe the DLC was like an 85. Did you didn't feel that way?
I think you have to take into context a bit of how it would have been like when it was fresh. You have to make a distinction there between like what it would have been when it first came out, kind of thing, I think, versus what it is now, when you're not like somebody who was playing the main game and then ran out of something and you were like eagerly awaiting the next DLC, and then it came out and you're like, yes, let's play this. So you had an extra layer of added excitement there, maybe. As opposed to now, I just felt like
the story. I just felt the story pieces weren't as strong, and I didn't think that some of the game design was as strong. Some of the pieces just felt a little clunkier to me, but it could have been me.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just additional storylines, and so the only thing that's different is what some of the way that some new elements they added to, say, the challenges, like for Screwball.
Yeah.
Which I hate Screwball. So
that's the one that Carrie, she hated Screwball. Whenever she would hear it, she was like, "Oh!" It's like, I can't do anything. Sorry.
Yeah, and she says stuff that it's either too repetitive or it's at the wrong time. Like, oh, you mean that thing that I just did? You're complaining that I didn't do that I actually just did. But just generally, she's extremely annoying.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane, there's some good bits, but there's still like.
That's funny. Yeah.
And Spidey, because she's always like, "Yeah, you're a piece of crap," and he's like, "Yeah, I know, I suck. You're so right." It's like, what?
Hashtag me too.
Yeah, but it was additional content. So
yeah, no, and 85 is good. I mean, I'm not hating on that content. Like, I mean, I'm just saying I didn't feel like it was as strong. And I'm not saying it's not worth playing, because I definitely think it is worth playing. I mean, 85 is good. I'd play a whole game that was 85, just, with no qualms. But
there are some things. I'm not sure if this is going to be wrapped up, but there was one in the second DLC. It ended with kind of like a big cliffhanger in a way.
Hmm.
It did. So, and as of yet, I have not seen the resolution to that in the third. So I'm hoping that they do that. I assume that they will, because it is relevant to the third is relevant to that ending, I think. But right now, it's largely concentrating on the Silver Sable aspect of the third. But yeah, it's the same content basically, just another part of the story. The playability, I mean, is the same content of the stuff you've been doing. They try to mix it up a little bit by making some of the mobs stronger, integrating some more tactics that they use against you. And at the same time, you're not getting any additional abilities because you've already got them all, potentially.
That's true.
And then within some of the screwball challenges, they've added the photo bomb thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is annoying, I find, largely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can hear you on that.
But it is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's something a little different. That's what they were trying to do. They're trying to make it a little different. They succeeded in that. I'm not sure I particularly care for it, but there you go.
Yeah, so you got a couple different views. And it's been so long. I can't be a little bit more accurate about like a specific like this thing, but that was my feeling. Was like, I think I wanted just a little bit more. For me, it was just like I love that first one. I love the game so much. It's like this might be my all-time favorite game, and then so I was excited about the DLC, and I thought the DLC felt a little less polished, I think is what I felt. To me, it just felt like a little less polished, but could just be me.
And I don't know if that's just because you've already experienced all that. You finished the main story, and these are add-ons to that. So
maybe
if it was just that, or if it is like, yeah, they just went with this isn't as good because they didn't give it as much attention because it is just add-on material.
Yeah.
Trying to get a little extra money, but I don't know. It's still good regardless.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to deter anybody from. I guess I would say just maybe a little guarded optimism on it, but definitely worthwhile. And if you want to, I mean, it's just fun being in that world. I mean, hell, just having a new reason to zip through the streets is worthwhile. I find.
Yeah.
Anything that gives you a reason to go back and hop around in there, because I'm down with. Endorse for sure.
I was talking about Heron of Alexandria.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember if that was ancient Rome or ancient Greece. Anyway,
Alexandria was Greece, right? Yeah.
The witch dispensed holy water, was used in the temples, the water organ. The steam-powered device, which was basically just used for fun because they had no reason to extend it to something actually useful to do work for them.
Why would we need to build a steam engine when we have humans that can pull it?
Yeah, if you've got free cheap slave labor, then slave labor, you don't need to create steam engines or anything like that. I think they also had like hydraulics and stuff, but again, they didn't use it for practical purposes because they don't need to.
They used it for sex toys. Heron, he invented the first sex swing, right?
Although he did use it in some of his other for displays within temples, and that's one of my favorites. Is he had, I think this was kind of like a form. He uses thermodynamics, if not a type of hydraulic situation going on here. There was at the doorway to the temple, there was an altar with like a cauldron on it, and so they would light the fire and do the prayer and everything, and then do the sacrifice, and it was timed so that
the heat would,
as the prayer finished and you beseech the god to open the temple to the righteous and faithful, and favor the crowd or whatever, that would have given it enough time for the fire to heat up the brass fire pit, whatever, cauldron, and carry that heat down or heat the water underneath of it to cause the mechanism, the trigger to open the temple doors at just the right time.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So it looked like the god itself was doing this,
Yep.
because of the sacrifice. It's just, it's bad taking advantage of people like that, but
Pretty ingenious.
I love theatrics and cool inventions. So
You're remarking merely as a showman, not as a human.
Yeah. Yes, I don't approve of fleecing the people, but showmanship, brava.
Yes, top marks for showmanship. But there's a special hell for you as well. It's even more special. People who deceive people through religious means. I think that is one of the deepest levels of hell, actually. People who use religious means to deceive them, like televangelists that got the bad rap, or not bad rap, but maybe it was a fair rap, but
I'm a good Christian. You should be a good Christian too. So give me all your money, and I'll use it for Christ. Ignore the fact that I have my own private jet and airline and airport on my many acre estate mansion. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we used to have a guy here. I don't know if are you familiar with the name Leroy Jenkins? Well, of course you. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Everybody knows Leroy Jenkins. Sorry. So Leroy Jenkins before.
He lived in Delaware.
Yeah.
My dad actually he pulled up in his limo and had two bimbos on either side of him, and he says that because they were, stereotypically, classically, what would be referred to as a bimbo, on either arm in the back of his limo, and he was like, "Boy, hey boy," my dad's dressed as a cop at the time, and was not a boy, and he was like asking the directions somewhere or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a legit compound. Because, like, when you would drive by it, I was like, what is that? Because it had a gun tower. It was like, what is that? It's like, oh, that's where Leroy lives. Okay.
I got in trouble playing what was supposed to be, like, blessed water from somewhere, and it was really just, like, his bath water or something stupid. Tap water from Delaware.
Yeah.
At the best.
But I think that people like that, and I think he was a faith healer, right? Claimed to be a faith healer.
Yeah.
And man, I think that's, unless you're an actual legitimate faith healer, if there are such a thing, great. But if you're not, then I think that there is a very special hell for you.
So Heron, it also says a primitive programmable robot, automation, or actually automaton. Maybe this does not go into. Oh, it does, but we don't have time to go into that. This is the first robot. Heron's automaton, the first robot. There's the temple door opener. And a fire engine, and just a whole bunch of other stuff. There was, I can't remember if it was him or not, but there was something that was almost a perpetual energy machine in a way. And I believe it used sand, counterweights and stuff, or just falling sand, a certain mass of falling sand. Can't remember exactly. But it was either a timekeeping device or a counting device or something like that. I don't recall exactly. But the way it was designed and that was something that could be done back then was just fascinating to me. So I suggest you look him up.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him. But that was one of the 8 wonders of the world, was the lighthouse in Alexandria, right? Which was the great library.
Oh, the library at Alexandria? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, library. Was the lighthouse part of the library, or was it separate?
There was a lighthouse of Alexandria. Yeah.
But was that the library?
It wasn't. I don't think they were like the same building or anything like that. They're separate. they were separate. And now, like, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long.
Yes, I'm from Alexandria. It doesn't mean I know everybody that's from Alexandria.
I think I had heard, again, this has been so long, and I don't recall. I don't know. For all I know, I dreamt this, but I thought that they think that they found Alexandria, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Who was the dick that burned Alexandria? Was that the Persians? Was that Xerxes? I think it might have been Xerxes. Might have been him.
I don't remember.
Computer, what happened to the city of Alexandria?
That library.
Here's something I found from the article Lighthouse
was
of
Xerxes.
Alexandria on Wikipedia. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria on an isthmus opposite Pharos.
Computer?
Actually, I think there were a lot of cities called Alexandria. The first person, according to ehistory.osu.edu, the first person blamed for the destruction of the library is none other than Julius Caesar himself. In 48 BC, Caesar was pursuing Pompey into Egypt when he was suddenly cut off by an Egyptian fleet at Alexandria. Fortunately, it also burned down part of the city, the area where the Great Library stood. And they show a picture of the lighthouse as well.
Yeah, I don't know. So what? Is it the Seven Wonders of the World? Is that what it was? Or was it Seven Wonders? I think. Or was it the Eight Wonders of the Ancient World?
I think so. There's different things. There's like the Seven Wonders of the World. Yeah, there's like the Eighth World or the Modern, and then there's a couple other things.
So I think it was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. I think it was the Lighthouse of Alexandria. I think it was the pyramids of something, right? I think those are the only three that I know. Probably the Great Wall.
Wikipedia. The Great Pyramid of Giza, Hanging Gardens of Babylon,
yep.
Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, Statue of Zeus at Olympia, Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, also known as the Mausoleum of Makula, Colossus of Rhodes, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria.
So the Great Wall isn't one of them. Not that great after all.
You're talking about the Great Wall of China?
Yeah, I figured it would probably be one, but maybe it's not ancient enough.
Great Wall of China.
It might not be regarded as ancient.
I wonder. Great Wall of China. What is this according to? Oh, okay. That doesn't look like a reputable source. Is the Guardian a reputable source?
Yeah, Guardian is a UK paper.
Okay.
I mean, if it's that Guardian.
Seven Wonders of the Modern World.
Yeah, so I bet you that it's just probably not regarded as ancient. Old AF, but old as fudge stripes, but not ancient. Not astronomical. It's not astronomically old.
Angkor Wat. I'd love to see that someday. Looks amazing.
What's that?
Angkor Wat, massive Cambodian temple complex.
Yeah, some of those. I had gone down a rabbit hole one day looking at some of that stuff when I was doing that building game. And looking at, styles of architecture on things. And
I've seen Machu Picchu as well.
Like looking at like monastery temples and stuff like that. Some of the places where they put some of those crazy things. It's like, what? Could you, huh? can't even imagine.
Some
Because
of the
like they're like in the middle
like
of
monasteries,
nowhere.
yeah, monasteries in the middle of nowhere that are built on top of a huge rock pillar, like
Yeah, you gotta really want it.
carved out of the rock.
All right.
It'd be so cool to be able to have some sort of time where you could go back without influencing anything and just view the creation and the peak and downfall of each of the ancient civilizations.
Do a little edging here.
Just to like in the middle of the stand in the middle of like the square. Like imagine shopping going on and stuff, like just people going about their daily shopping activities or whatever, conversing in the middle of like a Mayan complex or something.
You remember I was showing you, it was like that where they were using computer machine learning, and they had taken some footage from like the early film. It was like, I don't know, was it I can't remember how old it was, early 1900s, and it was like a train station, and they had, the footage is old, but they could ended up doing it at with machine learning. They could enhance it so that it would be like 60 frames per second. And it was
you started showing me something about that.
It was really I found it really fascinating, and because before it always just seems like, it's kind of like that. You expected a badly tuned piano to be playing in the background, right? And everybody's kind of like hopping along, and it just doesn't seem very organic. But it was just neat because you're like looking at it and you're like, these are people just going by their daily day life, right? Most of these people probably don't even understand what a camera is, so they're not really even paying attention to it. And it was like to see how like everybody was so fancily dressed, right? And you're like, this is not a period piece. This is lit. This is their actual everyday life, and it was neat. And yeah, it'd be really neat to see like what is it that I remember I was playing Assassin's Creed, that there's a bridge, I think, in Venice where it was like a marketplace, and it'd be like, yeah, it'd be cool to see like that in its heyday, or like go and see them when they were like building the pyramids or the Sphinx or something like that. Or some medieval sort of All right, Randy, let's take a quick look at where we're at with our Dalek. So here's the helmet. And this is where we're at currently with our base. I'm liking where this is going. Yeah, looking all right. I'm glad I did some of the edging here on the panels. Helps give them some definition, and edging around all the edges. It really goes a long way to help define it, not just feel like it's... I can't hear you right now. Maybe I lost my my headphones? No, my headphones sound like they're okay, unless maybe it died over here again. Give me 1 second, Randy. No, I think it's you. Let me check Discord. Can you hear me?
Doesn't look like Discord's picking you up, because you should turn green when it's detecting. So I'll give a couple seconds to see if Randy's able to hop back on. And if not, we'll be... Yeah, I like where this is at. Let's see. Oh, Randy just dropped off. We'll give him a second to see if he's hopping back on. And meanwhile, I'll make my way over here to our workstation. Thanks everybody who was on. I'm not sure if anybody's listening at this current time, but for all those that did, regardless, sending you good thoughts. Hope everybody's staying safe and sane during the zombie apocalypse. And we have Shadow to hop back on. It says you're talking, but I can't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
There we go.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah.
I had to close out of everything and come back in.
Yeah, as I was troubleshooting it, I looked in and your icon in Discord wasn't showing that you were talking at all, so I thought it was probably me, since I'm using two different powered devices. Figured one of them ran out. So, Randy, I think that we're going to bring it to a close. We showed off our work. I'm real happy with where we're at. We still got some stuff to do, but we are pretty close to wrapping him up. I think maybe one more good session, and he'll be done.
Nice.
So
he's looking good.
Thanks. Yeah, and I want to pull up our reference photo. I thought actually compared to our reference photo, he's looking. It was a good. That was a good piece of inspiration for me finding this photo. Here you can see.
Oh yeah, nice.
Actually, the M50 needs to be reset. Because before I was, just working with the black Dalek sec thing. It's like I just was trying to figure out how to make it more interesting, and I kind of took a book from Adam Savage. He talked about like when he was making his Blade Runner guns that I'm not making Decker's gun, I'm making a similar gun set in that universe, and it kind of frees you to have some more artistic license and whatnot. So seeing this, it was like, oh yeah, this is a lot more visually interesting. So I was like, we can do that, and I think we are. I think we're well on our way. Well on our way. But so, yep. With that, I remind everybody, since we're doing something. Doctor Who especially, remember, never cowardly, never cruel, never give up, never give in. Randy, you want to say anything to the good people before we part?
Be kind to one another and yourselves.
Yep.
Stay safe out there.
Oops. Yep. Stay safe, and we will talk with everybody soon.
Love you, bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, man. Bye.